guys for joining us again for another episode of the Pursuit of Purpose podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us
Rachel Johnson.
Rachel is a Lumberton resident now or Silsbee?
Kountze now.
Kountze now. You live in Kountze, Texas. And Rachel has a very interesting and special story. How old are you, Rachel?
I'm 22, about to be 23.
So 22 years old, and she's already made it onto the Pursuit of Purpose podcast because her story is so big.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about you. Just about you. We'll go into your history and all that stuff in a minute, but tell us about yourself.
Right now, I've been working at Spring Print for like 5 years.
What is Spring Print?
Spring Print is a printing company in Lumberton, Texas, owned by Jerry Spring. And we do just about anything, signs, like shirts, like this shirt.
You made that shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We do political signs, invitations, everything. And I'm a graphic designer.
Okay.
Very cool.
Graphic designer. That means you got some creative faculties.
Yeah,
You're going on up there. You're ahead of me in that game. Probably ahead of both of us.
I'm not an artist.
We can't even draw a successful circle around this
I think I
place.
did y'all's logo.
Yeah, you did a fine job. I've used it in many things. So those of you out there in our audience and in our client base, if you've seen our business cards, here's the source of the design. So, Rachel, tell us about your childhood home. Where did you grow up?
I grew up right outside of the city limits in Silsbee. It was down Mormon Church, I was right next to the Mormon Church. And
Mormon Church Road, right?
Mormon Church Road, yeah.
Yes.
And we lived in a 3-bedroom house growing up. I shared a room with my sister. It was a little cramped, but we were a small family, so we made it work.
So it was you, your mom, your dad, and a sister?
An
Is
older
that right?
sister and a younger brother.
Okay, so there were 3 siblings total.
Yes.
So you were the middle child.
Yes. Which
So-
explains why I'm crazy.
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that the middle child is the one with the biggest personality. Now,
I'd say that.
in your family, since there are 3 of you and you're a tiny person in stature, what are they like physically?
So my sister is taller than me. She's
Okay.
about the same height as my dad.
Okay.
And my brother is taller than my dad.
Taller than everybody.
Taller than everybody.
All right. So you're the tiniest one.
I'm the tiniest one.
So the middle child, the tiniest one with the biggest personality, would you say?
Yeah.
They might accuse you of such things?
Maybe.
Okay. So what was discipline like as you were growing up? Did you get a lot of whippings or
I
how'd that
did get
go?
a lot of whippings. I was good
Uh-huh.
as a child.
Don't we all say that? So,
But we did believe in whippings.
Okay.
We were Christian, going
Okay.
to church every Sunday. We didn't always go to the same church. We kind of like looked around a little bit, but was always in church every Sunday. And we definitely did believe in whippings, and we couldn't wake up my dad because he worked nights.
I've been through that.
Mm.
You know, Dolly Parton said a famous line in a movie, Steel Magnolias. It's one of my wife's all-time favorite movies. He said, God don't care what church you go to, long as you show up.
That's right.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with visiting churches.
I don't think there's
So I like the way you phrased something in that. I asked you what was discipline like. Did you get a lot of whippings? And you said, we believed in whippings. You didn't say they. You didn't blame them.
Yeah.
You actually took some ownership of that. That's impressive.
Well, I guess I take that because growing up, that's what they always said. They said, we believe in whippings, not I believe in whippings or your dad believes in whippings. It's we believe in whippings.
Well, that's a pretty sound way to
So,
teach principles
I think
to your
when I have
kids.
I'm going to
Gonna whoop them
believe in
kids.
whippings.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I also believe in whoopings. We believe in whoopings. And I think all of our kids will say the same
Mhm.
thing. We believe in whoopings.
Mhm.
So with that type of thing, understanding that you experienced some discipline and structure growing up, what were grades like in school?
So I was homeschooled my whole life. I basically taught myself from kindergarten up to like 12th grade. It was good for me. I
Uh-huh.
liked learning that way. For my brother, not so much. He had to be like sat beside the whole time. I did my work myself. I learned it. I read it. And then about ninth grade, I think, I started doing school with my cousins.
Mm.
And there was one who was my age, so we were in the same grade doing school together, and we started grading each other's classes. My mom overall looked over the whole work, but at the end, my mom gave us all like a 3.5 GPA. She was like, we can't give you a 4.0 because whatever. But I was co-valedictorian of my class, even though there were only two of us.
Hey, I love that.
So what were dances like, in high school?
We didn't have dances.
Oh, man.
No.
Like parties and things like that.
Prom
That
date was a
different.
little-
Parties
Yeah.
were just a birthday party.
There we go.
We didn't go to a co-ed or anything, so we didn't have dances and stuff. I didn't go to a prom until after I graduated, and I was invited to go to prom.
Were you invited the first time you went to a prom? Was it by a boy or by
By a boy.
a boy?
Okay.
And what were your parents like about that?
They were like, yeah, go for it.
Wow.
They were like, you're not going to go to prom otherwise.
Right.
So
So looking back on it now, and you're almost 23 years old, or you are 23 years old.
almost.
Well, we're gonna
Sure.
say it. You're right there.
Yes.
2 months.
You're a very mature person, so we're gonna give you the 23.
Right. Right. And she was a valedictorian.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, her mom had to count her backwards to get a 3.5. So
That's
I mean,
right.
you know, by all rights,
Right. I feel a little intimidated. I mean, my version of a high school exit was we could burn the school down. That'll get you out.
right.
Or you could finish your work and we'll
You
just
can make
say,
it 70. We'll
that's
let you out.
right. And we'll just say, thanks for stopping by.
I actually finished all my schoolwork early. I finished in December.
Nice.
So I graduated technically in 2020, but I finished it all in 2019.
Well, that's amazing. So what I want to ask you is, now that you've been, do you still live with your parents?
Yes.
Okay. You've been out of the schooling, the basic educational environment for
5 years.
5 years.
Mhm.
If you look back on it and now you're imagining the prospect of having your own kids, what do you think about homeschool? Would you continue doing it? Would you do it yourself? And how would you want that to look for your kids?
Well, every kid is different.
Yeah.
Like I said, I learned differently than my brother learned. I think I would homeschool only because of how the public school system is. There are things that I think I missed out on, like parties and prom and stuff, whatever. But overall, I didn't care about it. I would have been like a nerd, hanging out at the library, not having friends, anyways.
Mm.
But I think I would homeschool my kids, possibly with a co-ed. Luckily, we had a bunch of cousins.
You mean a co-op?
A co-op,
Yeah.
not a co-ed, a co-op. I had a bunch of cousins, so we didn't really need a co-op. We were our own co-op.
Right.
But the fact that we were able to go on vacations whenever we wanted,
Mhm.
and we could take our school with us, we would go during school year, and like all the other kids were in school. We were in Colorado.
Nice.
And
And I hear
think
that a
I
lot.
would do that again.
That's good. I hear that a lot from homeschool kids who, when it's done well, evidently your mom was
You
dedicated
just
to
have
that.
to keep structure.
Yes, and that their division of learning is that much more unique. They get to go to Colorado and go look at geology things and
Yeah,
go.
that was our field trip.
Yes, exactly, and all that kind of adds in, if you will. So what I don't hear is that things such as other clubs and activities and whatever, you don't feel like you missed out on any of that.
I wasn't a very athletic kid growing up. So when I was younger, we did do like a little dribblers sort of thing called Upwards
Yeah.
at a school or at a church.
Mhm.
But as far as like football, basketball, stuff like that, I didn't really want to do it.
Okay.
I have cousins who were in a church that had sport teams and they had a co-op. So they got to play volleyball and they got to play football and baseball. That's good for them. If my kids want to do sports, I'll find something for them. I didn't want to do it, so I didn't they feel like I missed out on anything. I know in public school you're required to do it sometimes. Certain
Well,
schools.
it's available for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids do, join. And I know as a counselor and hopefully an influencer on parents, I do encourage their kids to get into something, whether it's work or
Yeah.
martial arts or something.
Team activities
Team-
of some
Yeah.
Or youth group.
Oh my
I know that,
We always went to
youth. Yeah. I mean, that if it's a good group, that keeps you pretty occupied because just that that block of time during the day
Mhm.
at the job, we'll call that school. It's not enough. It's not
Mhm.
enough, and we need to do more. And so, but it sounds like you guys kept things pretty active.
Yes, we were
Yeah.
constantly moving, going on vacations, going out, doing stuff. During the summer, we always had a summer camp that we went to up in Buffalo.
Hmm.
And it got to a point where we led the kids camp.
Oh,
So we,
Okay.
we grew up in it, and then a few years after, we went back and we were leading it.
yeah, it's kind of graduated into the
Yeah.
counselor leadership role. That was your sister homeschooled also? You said
Yes.
your brother was. Okay, so
My
she was.
sister
Also.
was too, and she actually went to college afterwards.
Oh.
I did not. I'm still thinking about it.
Well, it's never too late.
No, it's never
We
too
had a
late.
guest come on the show that graduated from A&M at 76 years old. So it's never too late.
No, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it is. He's a very impressive man for that, for sure.
Mhm.
What about learning to drive a car? Did that change? Because parents teach their kids most of that anyway.
Yes. So we said the parent taught. My mom would get in the car with me, and we'd spin around the block, take usually back roads. I know all the back roads in Stillsby. I did not want to drive at first. I cried a lot. I would get in the driver's seat. We'd start going, and be like, I don't know where I am. She'd be like, just take a left. She's like, okay, how do you get home from here? I don't know. Drove out to like Honey Island and stuff. But now I drive.
So I want to ask you a different question, go at a little bit of a different angle. And we're kind of belaboring the homeschool thing, but it's just such a curious thing.
It is.
Having
My mom
someone
was
who
homeschooled
completed
too.
their education this way. When you entered into social circles, you began to go to work, get outside of the home, meet friends who were not homeschooled, potentially. I mean, I don't know how many are homeschooled in our area, and
Yeah.
I don't know how the social structure works for them. It's very curious to me. How did it go when a boy took an interest in you for the first time? How was that? Because you had been
Yeah.
in this very different environment, not exposed the same.
Well, I didn't really have interest in
Mhm.
boys. I had a rule. My whole family had a rule: can't date until you're 18 or you graduate from high school. I graduated.
I like that rule.
I graduated at 17, so 17 I could date, but I didn't have an interest. I knew of guys who liked me, and I made it very clear, like in public. I can't date. I can't date until I'm 17. I can't date until I'm 18. And I didn't care. No one confessed their feelings to me. No one did nothing. I would just hang out with them. We were friends, which probably led them to think I liked them back sometimes. But I tried not to because I didn't want to.
It wasn't your thing.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I didn't like any of them. I didn't end up dating any of them.
So you currently have a romantic interest. And how did that begin?
We met through family.
Okay.
Just-
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're not dating a cousin, are you? I know you live in Silsby, but I mean, this is not Caney Head.
She's a Hardin County girl. I don't know.
We met through family.
Okay. That's good.
And married.
We just started hanging out. We were
Okay.
friends at first. I wasn't gonna pursue anything.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm not making the first move. I just had that strict. I wasn't gonna make the first move. And then we'd been, hanging out as friends for like a few months. We hadn't even said we were talking or anything. And then my whole family knew I liked him. His whole family knew he liked me, but he wouldn't admit it.
But neither of you had actually said it to each
said
other.
it to each other. And then December, he was like, my aunt actually said something to him and was like, if she got a different boyfriend, if she went on a date with someone else, how would you feel? And he was like, I think that would upset me. And then that week he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Okay.
So
That's a fine question, Aunt. I like it. Yeah,
It's good thinking.
that is.
So since December, you guys have been
Yes.
boyfriend, girlfriend. Very good.
That is.
Very good. So good luck in that, in your relationship. I hope all goes well. The only advice I would have is just take it as slow as you possibly can.
Sure. No race.
Uh,
Set the pace.
So I met you through your employer.
Mhm.
I met you because, as you said before, you do our graphic designing for our logo and things like that. And because of that,
In a way, she makes us look good.
yes, that's a great way to put it. So because of that, your employer,
Sorry, you don't have much to work with.
you're
Yeah,
right.
see,
We're
usually.
pretty rough. But your employer introduced you to me and told me a little bit about your story and said that you'd be a great guest on this show.
She loves to tell my story.
So-
Anytime she's at BNI, she says she's telling people my story.
She does.
So we're going to get your story from you. And is it, if, from my understanding, this is your first time to do this?
It is my second time being interviewed for it.
Okay.
First time was just in my house for a blog, though.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't
Okay.
recorded or anything.
Okay. Well, this is.
Yes.
And the cool thing, and we're very proud of this, is that we have listeners worldwide.
Mhm.
We're in about 28 and 20 or 29 countries now, all over the world. So what you're about to do has the potential to bless many. Okay. So when you say your story, we've already been talking about your story. What do you mean by your story?
Well, my story is that in December of 2020, I got in a near fatal car accident and made it out on top. I walked out of the hospital after a week.
So when you say near fatal car accident, can you describe a little more detail what that means?
Yes. I was going home from the Lumberton parade and
Which Lumberton parade? Because there are several.
the Lumberton Christmas parade.
Christmas parade. Okay.
It was in December. It was kind of rainy, kind of wet, and I was crossing the highway. I had a passenger in my car, and I got T-boned.
Hmm.
It was my fault. I got T-boned, and it flipped my car multiple times, and caused the airbags in the doors of my car. I had a Jeep Compass.
Uh-huh.
It caused the airbags to go out in the doors, not the front, but the doors.
The side impact
Mhm.
airbags.
And my passenger and me hit heads
Mm.
multiple times because of the flipping. And I fractured my skull, fractured my cochlear in my ear, busted my eardrum. I had a brain bleed that bled out through my ears.
Oh
And-
gosh. Wow. That's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
though, because that way they don't have to drill on your head.
Yes.
It let its own pressure off.
Mhm.
Mm.
And then at the end of it all, I wasn't breathing. And had to be intubated on site.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go.
They didn't have to put a
They
tube
were
or
able to
anything
just stick it
in.
in.
They were just able to stick a tube down my throat. Yeah, I had bruises, but the only broken bone was my head.
She says that very like
I
cavalier.
fractured
The only broken bone I
That's
had.
I didn't
That's
break
it.
my arm
Broke my
or my
skull.
legs. My
Yeah.
passenger
Right.
just got a concussion,
Wow.
Wow.
and I got a concussion.
What a
He got
hard
a few
hit.
scrapes
Yeah.
from like glass and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a hard head.
So, are you still friends with the passenger?
No.
No.
Sadly,
Is it because of the memories of that, or is it other life stuff just happens and
just other life stuff happened. He remembered everything that happened in the wreck.
okay?
And I don't remember anything.
Hmm.
He's still friends with my brother, I think, but we've floated apart.
So, how did that change the course of your life? That moment in time. You know, oftentimes we experience traumatic events,
Mhm.
and our life will be going one way. That traumatic event happens, and then we veer off in a different
Yes.
direction. Would you
Um,
say that happened for you?
Yes, I tend to get a lot more anxious now.
Okay.
Kind of when driving, kind of just in general. My family is more anxious now. When we go home from somewhere, we have to tell them, "Hey, I'm home," or "Hey, I'm going to this place." You can't call my mom and be like, "Something crazy just happened." She's like, "Oh my gosh," she freaks out more.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I have a bit of PTSD
Well, yeah.
because of like loud noises and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I have constant ringing in my ears because I lost hearing. Although miraculously, my hearing is average.
That's amazing.
It is.
Uh,
It is.
it's an amazing thing. And see, when I was a kid, you know, they teach you don't stick anything in your ears. If you bust your eardrum, you'd be deaf. You know, it's
Yeah.
permanent. Well, I learned recently because of my wife, they had to poke her eardrum to do a procedure, that it does grow back. And you're,
does.
yeah.
Yes, mine grew back extremely fast, and fluid got stuck behind it.
So they had to poke it again. Didn't
So they didn't. We just waited until they wanted to put tubes in my ears. I didn't want tubes in my ears.
Mm.
But the lucky thing about my ears is I fractured my right cochlear. In Texas, if you have one cochlear gone, you can't get cochlear implants for just one ear.
Really?
You have to get it for both ears in Texas.
Oh.
So
Did not know that.
I was very lucky that it was just fractured. Because if that cochlear had broken, I would be deaf in one ear.
Mm.
Wow.
And that has to do with your balance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a little wobbly sometimes.
So did it recover some?
It has recovered. I don't know if I've had a scan to find out if it's not fractured anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm, my eardrums are good now. I don't have fluid behind them anymore.
So if you're a little wobbly, you're still a sober person, right?
Yes.
We don't have to worry
Yes.
about.
I get dizzy sometimes
Okay.
and just deal with it, I just close my eyes.
Some people tell me after they've had major head injuries like yourself, things such as like when they lay down to sleep at night, everything's fine. But when they get up, because they've been in more of a horizontal state rather than upright all day, is that something that you've experienced?
I have experienced that a lot more when it was recent to my wreck.
Mm-hmm.
But like sometimes when the weather gets like this or I'm really stressed out, if I like turn my head, like just looking back and forth between y'all, I would get dizzy.
Yeah.
Well, let's not do that.
Yeah.
I'm not right now.
Okay.
I'm good.
So what do you want to become? You are so young, your whole life laying out before you. You've already experienced a traumatic event, which, don't take this the wrong way, but it's a huge blessing because it helps you put into perspective the value of your life.
Yes.
And being able to make choices about how big of an impact you create in your life for yourself and for other people. So I asked that question, seeing that at such a young age, you've been given a gift of wisdom, which is an unusual thing. Most of the kids, most young people at your age, most young people are in college or about to, maybe graduate with a degree and just kind of considering entering the workforce full time for the first time, or what have you. But you've seen the potential of the other side. Mm-hmm. So what do you think you want to do with that?
Well, right now, just tell people about it. I've had multiple actually life-changing events.
Oh, well, do tell.
Because a year after my wreck, I was just sitting at work and it was a windy day and they were working on a billboard above us and a pole fell through the roof straight down like ding, and hit me on the shoulder.
A pole?
A pole. Like
the sign pole?
A pole, I think it's a stretcher. They stretch the billboard across. I think it was one of those. And it was metal all the way through. It wasn't hollow. And it just hit me on the shoulder.
So a steel rod falls through the roof of your employer.
Yes.
And grazes you, bumps you on the shoulder.
It didn't impale me or anything. I didn't, I was wearing a really thick hoodie that day. And
did it damage your skin at all? Mm-mm. No scrape, no red spot? A bruise.
And that's it.
Girl?
Right. It hit right on my bone. And it slid down my shirt.
Okay. And
so I got a giant bruise on my shoulder.
God is telling you something. He's
if it had been any closer to my head, I probably would have died because of my accident the year before.
Right.
You got a purpose.
I mean, you came really within just inches of hitting you in your head.
You and Donald Trump share that experience.
Yeah.
His was a bullet and yours was a metal rod.
Yeah.
That's craziness.
What are the odds coming through the roof?
Yes. And now they can't work on our billboard anymore while we're at work.
Okay. And who knows? You may have changed the other policy for them too.
So they were just out there working on it.
They were just out there working on it. And they dropped it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So it's one of those.
It's one of those things where it could have gone sideways when it fell.
Yeah, it would have just landed and stuff.
And it went straight down.
So it just fell just right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
That's amazing.
That is.
So your life has been spared and saved twice within a year. Or look, somewhere around
Yeah,
that
it was
time.
within a year. Because that was November after.
Wow. How does that feel? What does that make your brain think?
I try not to think about it, because if I think about it too much, I might start to think I'm untouchable, you know? You know,
She has
one too
superpowers. She's
too
Kim
many good
Possible.
things.
He's immortal.
I'm immortal.
So what will your superhero name be? We're going to have to come up with this.
Man.
Rockstar Rachel?
We'll start there. That's right. That's right.
Well, you're going to have to come up with your own logo, graphic designer.
We'll see.
Build your super suit.
Yeah,
the
whole
whole 9 yards.
mask,
Right.
right in the wind, and do the stance. Yeah.
Okay. Draw the line there.
Okay. Well, you have to at least have, the knee-high boots. So every superhero's got to have tall boots. I don't know.
And when you have kids of your own, I know you're probably going to be homeschooled, but if they went to public school, you'd have to show up for career day and be like, what does your mom do? Well, she defies death.
Yeah. You know how superheroes have a weapon? Yours could be a rod. I mean, we can just keep going with it. Yeah.
The only thing about death is a lot of people think that during my wreck, I actually died. I don't think that, because I never saw anything. And I know a lot of times when people see heaven when they die, it's just this ceiling lights in the hospital and stuff like that. But I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. I don't remember anything. I didn't die.
So we don't really know because your memory's lost. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So if you did go somewhere
But I
else,
didn't spotlight or anything either.
Right.
So.
Okay.
You didn't have one of those out-of-body experiences that some people talk about.
I did afterwards. But
Did you?
After I was already in the hospital, I saw little demon things
morphine.
jumping around my room. Yeah. Yeah.
So you did see little demon things jumping around your room.
I told them to go away and they went away.
What? That's awesome.
That is.
I woke up.
You remember that really well.
I woke up and I tried to escape my hospital room.
Oh, no.
I took out my IVs and everything. And then I was like, I don't know where I am. I'm not supposed to be here. So I'm just going to close the door and I'm going to think of a plan to get out of here. I don't even know where I am. And then the nurses came at me.
So they had to strap you down.
They didn't strap me down. They might have strapped me down. That's a middle child.
Yes.
Big personality.
There you go.
That is great.
Wow. So what was I think you said a week. You're only in the hospital for a week.
About a week time, 7 or 8 days, I think.
Okay. And then recovery after.
Because I tried to escape, my mom got to stay with me. Because I was 18 and it was the height of COVID. So at first they were like, she's an adult, no one can stay with her. And then because I tried to get out, they were like, Mom, you can stay.
You earned yourself a visitor.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a blessing.
So what was recovery like now that your brain's coming back online? You don't have to stay in the hospital. Then what?
I had to learn how to walk again.
Okay.
They had me laying on the bed for the whole week that I didn't know how to walk. I had a walker for the first month.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
I was like an old lady. I know what it's like to be young and old.
Right.
You've gone through it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was on anti-seizure medicine for the first 2 months, I think, as well, which will really mess you up. I didn't want to eat. I didn't.
Was that a precaution, or were there?
It's a precaution.
Okay.
Because I wasn't having seizures, but because of how traumatic my injury was, they were like, "Can you keep her on this for, we start weaning her off of it, and that stuff will mess you up."
So you were in a Jeep when this happened.
It wasn't the ones that they don't have doors though, like a Wrangler. It was the Jeep Compass, a little mini.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So what do you drive now?
I drive a Toyota CHR.
Okay.
Little car, like a hybrid.
So, and were you at an intersection when you got T-boned? Did you pull out from an intersection? Is that what happened?
It wasn't an intersection, I don't think. It was just where you could cut across the highway.
Oh, okay.
Here's this exit, the Kountze exit, and I was just going across the highway. There was a red light.
Okay.
And I got T-boned by an ambulance.
Oh no.
But they didn't have their lights on or anything.
Mm.
In an emergency.
Okay.
They were just going, and I think that's what saved my life.
They rendered aid to you.
That they were there
Yeah.
to respond
Wow.
immediately. If I had been any, and ambulances are hard hitters.
Yes. Yeah.
They
They're
are
big, heavy
sturdy.
vehicles. Yes.
Yes, but I took off
Yeah.
their bumper.
Wow.
You did something. You left a mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they're basically 350s, aren't
Yeah,
they?
it's a one-ton truck with a box on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a dually, basically.
And
Wow.
I didn't see them. They were in my blind spot, and Jeep all have this horrible blind spot. I'm not gonna get a Jeep again,
Mm.
ever.
Mm.
But they all have this horrible blind spot just on the front, and I didn't see them at all.
Oh.
Mm.
Well, bless
But
your heart.
apparently, I
Yes.
was very calm throughout the whole interaction. That's my passenger.
Okay.
Okay.
So, looking ahead, you're going to have your own kids, right? You do speculate that.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
Okay.
So, when you're teaching them to drive, how will you address that?
That's Dad's job. I don't like driving. I
You know,
only drive when necessary.
I'm not going to try to dad you too much here on this program, but I do have kids your age,
I know.
pretty close. And I will tell you that even though it may be dad's job to teach them, moms take the job. I don't say that's their job, but they take the job of worrier in chief.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And having been through that traumatic experience, it might be good advice to give yourself permission to discuss that worry with both the dad and the children, whatever, because you don't want to just have this enormous anxiety welling up in you every time your kids take the wheel.
Mm.
It's not fair to you.
No.
It won't be fair to them. So let that out early, so that you don't punish yourself and them in the process.
Yeah.
So do you go through that same intersection now
No.
where it happened?
No.
No, that's not intersection, but that
No.
same place.
No one in my family goes that way anymore.
Really?
Mm.
Like, we'll go from the highway to that exit, but we won't cross the highway anymore. Like, no one.
Is that the one?
It's in front of Journey Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's on the 96 side
Mhm.
of Lumberton?
Mhm.
Okay. No, I use it not frequently, but
Yeah. I
pretty
mean,
regularly.
it's still good to use, like, when you have the way,
But not if you've been through that.
Not if you
Mhm.
it has affected me when I drive, because I don't like to take left-hand turns anymore across traffic. If given the opportunity, I will take a right turn and make a U-turn, because I won't cross the traffic unless I'm like absolutely
Yeah.
positive that there's no traffic coming.
Sure. So that's kind of left over.
Mhm.
You know. Okay.
She's never going to be a NASCAR driver.
Never.
No.
Can't do the left
No,
turns.
no,
Can't do left turns for a living. No.
So there's one less career. So we're narrowing it down.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
future.
We're getting close.
No NASCAR driver.
That's right. Before you're done with career counseling here, we'll get it down to one.
Yeah.
You could do drag strip. You can do this. They go
Yeah.
straight, and then when they
Yeah.
pull out, at the end of the strip, it goes either way.
I don't think I'd want a job driving anyway.
Okay. So we've taken out pizza delivery,
Yeah.
Uber Eats, all of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
We're narrowing it down.
Long haul trucker.
Yeah.
Won't be doing that.
I'm not
Okay.
a trucker.
Okay. Let's just stick with the art. How about that? If we can make a living at art, there we go.
It's a career job for sure, and I got it right out of high school. I've been working full time there for 4 years, I think.
Nice.
I started half time, switched to full time. It's what I said I wanted to do. when I
Graphic
was in high
design.
school.
Really? So you're pursuing what you've wanted to do
Yeah.
since you were a kid.
I was gonna go to college for it, but then I got the job and I learned on the job. And so now I'm thinking, should I take some classes just to learn a little bit more? I don't have to, but I can. Do I want to pay for that? Because my parents aren't going to pay for me anymore.
Well, I think you're asking the advantage, disadvantage questions, which is it really my advantage to go pay for classes that I could probably get online and YouTube, which is a lot of where you've learned anyway. It's just your own self-taught. Seems like you got.
Jerry taught me everything I know.
There you
She's
go.
a great teacher.
There you go.
Well, I will say this, and Chuck and I partake in this activity quite a bit. Self-education is the most valuable education.
Yes.
Because when you educate yourself, when you pursue the knowledge and understanding and experience yourself, you value it more when you attain it.
Right.
You know, that experience brings you so much more.
Right.
Even in school, like if and when you ever decide to take those classes, they'll be valuable to you at that point because you're ready for them, not because someone else said you needed it.
Right.
It's because you want it.
And kind of the dual purpose is, you want it. And so, that will just enhance your skills. And then the only other really dual purpose, and I did college for a long time, but it gave me my certifications and permissions for what I wanted to do. And not every career needs that.
No, I've, in the past, gone to summer camps. One of them was an art camp. And I talked to my teacher and asked him, is this something worth going to college for? And he said, most of the time, arts, you can go to college for it, you can get a certificate, but your employers will value experience over the certificate.
Nice.
So having 5 years experience is more valuable than going and getting a certificate.
That's good advice.
And I will say this, the lady that you work for, I mean, having been a customer of hers before and since you've been there, she is one of the best in our area. She really does know her business, and she puts out quality work, and that seems to be the biggest focus of everything she does is high quality. So you're in a good spot to learn.
Yes, and I've worked with someone before in the past who had gone to school for it, and sometimes they get stuck in what they learned, and they just want, blue looks good with orange, even though they want blue and yellow, so I'm going to do blue and orange.
So they think they know best,
So
even though it's
boy.
You just have to keep a flexible mindset of, yes, this is what I learned, but this is what I'm learning still. Like, school isn't everything. You gotta
no kidding, homeschool.
Valedictorian.
Yeah, right.
Oh, valedictorian. Appreciate your modesty.
Some things you do have to go to school for, like if you want to get a job in a refinery.
Indeed.
Even though they like experience, they also like a degree. My dad worked at Southampton growing up, and then because of that experience, he was able to go into Exxon without college, but that was also like years ago.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Exxon likes to hire people straight out of school with the highest grades, like all A's.
Right.
They want that experience. Even if you worked at Southampton, they're going to look at your grades before they look at your experience.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. It is. I guess those standards shift through the years, And at the end of the day, they're still going to teach them the Exxon way.
Yes.
They're going to do it the way we want to do it. So, I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages all around, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you said that you were brought up in a Christian home. Are you a Christian now? Do you consider yourself to be a person of faith in that regard?
Yes, I go to Parkway Life Church. I try to go every Sunday. Not to brag.
Well, that's kind of holy ground because your accident was right in front of the church.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
I was leaving that church from the parade.
And they're friends, so that's a good church. Good for you. Yes.
So how did your faith play a role in your recovery from your experience?
Well, like everyone, you always have rocky areas in your faith that you try to get over.
Yeah.
I would say I was in a rocky area before my accident, just because of being right out of high school and, not knowing anything. I could date then, but I was like, but I don't want to date. But, and that I was questioning my relationship with God. So I was like, why aren't you listening to me? Like, I want things in my life that you're not giving me. But then after, you got to think about, like, why am I here? Like, there's a reason that God didn't just off me.
It's an amazing thing. I love the way you said what you just said. It took a lot of courage to admit what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So often we find ourselves saying, God, why aren't you giving me what I want? Why aren't you giving me what I'm asking for? And he's sitting back going, well, why aren't you doing what I need you to do? Why aren't you living the life that I set out for you?
Mm-hmm.
You want everything you want,
Yeah.
and I'll give it to you. If
And
all you got to do is.
At the time, I had just gotten out of a lot of church hurt. We had been to a church for a really long time, and they hurt us, and so we stopped going there. And my best friend was going to that church, and she really hurt me, along with just getting hurt by the church in general. And I was like, what's the point? Church is going to be like this. She was the pastor's daughter, and she's going to be like that.
That happens so often.
It does.
Yeah. And then we started going to Parkway, and I was like, I'm not going to trust anyone here. I'm just going to stick to the background. I'm going to go to church, but I'm not going to, try to be friends with anyone. And now my family's, really big in the church, and my mom works for the church, and yeah, I used to sing, but then after my wreck, I stopped singing.
Well, do you think you'll do it again?
I don't think so because of my ears.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've got those.
They got in-ears, and Parkway uses the in-ears, but I also get very overwhelmed.
The anxiety factor.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
It's also very loud. I've tried to keep singing afterwards, and it became too much.
Well, ministries come in different fashions, so maybe we don't yet know what yours will be.
Maybe mine's more low-key.
There you go.
Maybe you're a speaker.
Maybe not.
I don't know. You're sitting fine right now.
Doing pretty well. That's right.
Yeah, but I'm not in front of anyone.
Oh, you are, though. You're in front of over 600,000 people right now. Sure enough. So now she's not going to say another word the whole time. That was it.
Interview's over.
Yep.
Well, you're doing great. Your encourage is wonderful. And yeah, I mean, you face the worst of all things, and which is really living through something. I mean, I'm not a proponent of death per se, but sometimes that means that's the end of things. But to go through something, that's the worst of all things. And to come out on the other side with your poise and maturity, you're doing fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So who knows what audience may be awaiting you.
So we look forward to seeing what you become. In a lot of these interviews, we're seeing people later in life. We're seeing people at their reinvention stage where they have been through this and that, and their story has led them to this place where they're finally reinventing themselves to become that product, that not I want to say final product, but final edition. And they're building that end of that story. But with you are at the cusp of the beginning. And we look forward to seeing what you become, what you create. It's very exciting.
When you start at the bottom, there's only one place to go.
Well, you're a long way from the bottom, my dear.
Right.
I promise you that.
It's true what you say,
Yes.
but you are a long way from the
You already have some upward momentum.
Yes.
Which is amazing and so beautiful to see.
Right.
You seem to be a person with a beautiful soul, very positive outlook, good attitude. Those attributes will take you a long way.
For sure.
You seem cautious in your actions, moving forward. I believe you to be measured in your actions.
I think that's from being a middle child.
Well, that's okay.
I got to see everything my older sister did.
Watch that fool in front of you get all the trouble.
And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And then I grew up really close with my cousins. I had 9 cousins, first cousins. And I got to see them as well. I was right in the middle of them too.
Okay.
The middle of the middle.
That's a good experience.
That is a good experience.
Taught you a lot of social dynamics.
Yeah.
So you've been an amazing interview, and it's been a great privilege to have you with us. Thank you for sharing your story with us and with our audience. We have a few questions that we ask towards the end. If there was some advice that you might give to someone who has seen this interview and admires you, wants to be like you, but say they're 16 or 17, they haven't graduated from homeschool or high school yet. They're still young, still in that process. What advice might you give them?
To never stop learning, to always be teachable. Like, whether you're in school or you're at work, don't stop becoming teachable, no matter how old you are. If you're just getting out of high school and you're starting your job at McDonald's, be teachable. They're going to like you more if you're teachable. And then if you're just like, oh, I'm not going to do the fries that way because I have always done it this way. No, just be teachable.
That's good advice.
It's very
that wisdom. I'm telling you, 22, almost 23 years old. That's some heavy wisdom, right?
That is. That is.
You wouldn't believe how long it took me to learn that.
My ego was nowhere near that.
Yeah.
No.
I'm more than twice your age, and like I learned that like I don't know,
And
6 years ago.
A lot of people think,
Just the other day.
Right.
A lot of people will think, oh, I've learned this before in the past. I know how to do this, and then get told a different way to do it, and they're going to be like, my system doesn't work like that. I'm just going to do it the way I've known to do it, even though it takes longer and it's harder. This is how I've always known to do it, rather than trying to learn, oh, well, this way's actually faster and it's a lot easier. Or sometimes it'll take longer, but it's better in the end. It has better results.
Right.
Just be teachable.
Sure.
I love that.
I do too. And you're the environment you're in over at Spring. I mean, now you're with a seasoned veteran and Jerry. She's like, yeah, I've worked out the kinks. I can tell you how to get there a whole lot quicker and better.
Even still, we're still constantly learning.
Yes. Yeah. Well, technology is always improving. And how y'all get so much equipment in that little box?
We don't know.
There's a lot of equipment.
Well, I learned one of their tricks the other day. I was in their store. One of the walls comes out basically in the back of the room. It's like a big garage door, but you don't notice it until you're standing back there in the middle of it. And they got stickers all over it. So you, even then, all their failed artwork, they use it like stickers on the wall.
Or like extra stuff.
Yeah.
So like if y'all are doing a bigger job, you can take it out that garage door. You don't have to come back through the front.
We could, but we don't. Now we have a second office.
Oh, okay.
Just for our production. So that they can take big cars and trucks and big signs out. So we have it in Beaumont.
Okay. We're getting some inside scoop.
Yeah.
But that door is mainly for getting the equipment in.
Gotcha.
So they don't have to go all the way to the front.
Okay.
That's tiny.
Good.
But actually the secret is we just constantly move things around.
Okay.
Constantly rearranging. So that, if it ever starts to feel cramped, move it and you'll feel like you have more space.
Well, there you go. Reinvention. Reinvention. And removable doors.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you my favorite question that I ask every guest that we have on our show. It's the closing question that we always ask.
Okay.
If you could go back in time, basically with you, it's like yesterday because you're so young. But if you could go back in time to when you were about 16 or 17 years old, you had not yet become valedictorian. You were headed that way.
Yes.
I had at 17.
Well, 16 then. We're going to go back to 16.
Yes.
But if you could give you to yourself, some advice, some wise words that you could tell yourself, like whispering in your own ear at that young age, what would you say?
Stay happy.
Stay happy.
Because happiness is a choice that you choose. Joy is a choice. And if you try to stay in your sadness and just dwell in it, you're gonna stay sad. If you, even though you're sad, choose happiness and choose joy and look on the positive side of things, fake it till you make it,
Sort of.
Pretend you're happy until you're actually happy.
That's pretty profound.
I tell myself to fake it till you make it.
I'm going to say something here. I'm going to add to that a little bit what you just said. It sounds to me like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like you're more of taking ownership of your attitude, taking ownership of your outlook, saying that I choose I will be happy. No matter what my feelings are telling me in this moment.
If I ever wake up in a bad mood when I'm driving to work, I say, I'm not going to be mad today at work.
Oh, I'm going to have to survey your co-employees. She does strike me as somebody who could never be in a bad mood at work. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she is.
Every once in a while, at work, I get, Rachel, you're so quiet. Is something the matter?
Oh.
No. I'm like, I just had a bad day, But that means that they always notice when something's wrong.
That's good.
That means they love you. They're looking out for you. and they want the best for you. They want to help you if they can. That's a great environment to work in.
Is.
So is there any last words that you'd like to leave our audience with before we close?
I don't think so.
Did we
I think
miss
I
anything?
said just about everything.
Okay. Very good.
Well, you have been an excellent guest, but before we get to some of the closing thoughts, you've also been our only ambassador for Spring Printing. We want to make sure that they get a good, healthy plug today. So where can folks find y'all's products and services?
We are on at 540 South Main, right next to Chicken Express, south of Chicken Express.
In Lumberton, Texas.
In Lumberton, Texas,
Yes.
not Virginia, Texas. And you can also find us at springprint.com. And if you have any orders you want to send over, you want to get a quote, you can always send it to orders@springprint.com.
Very good.
And I can tell you from personal experience out there that, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you're not located in Southeast Texas, they can help you with graphic design. They can help you with stuff, and they can ship it to you probably anywhere in the world. So if you're not located in Southeast Texas, don't let that stop you, at least from letting them help you with your graphics and your artwork. I can tell you that if you can put your idea into words, they can put it into design.
Yes.
They are very creative, and typically it doesn't take them that long. They do have a heavy customer base, but they're fast on turnaround, and they'll do it again and again until they get your idea to your needs and your specifications.
That's right.
So thank you guys out there for joining us again for this episode of the Pursuit of Purpose podcast. Thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
That's Rachel.
Yeah. Y'all have a great day, and we'll hope to see you soon.